Will the House please come to order and members kindly take their seats? Good afternoon. The devotional today will be led by Pastor Max Tardy of the Bible Baptist Church in Berlin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good afternoon. Marquis de Lafayette is attributed with saying, quote, "One time I was given an essay topic to describe a perfect horse, whom the mere sight of the rider's whip would make obedient. I depicted this horse, this perfect horse, throwing his rider at the sight of the whip." Unquote. I do not know if a French hero of the American Revolution was thinking of Vermonters when he said this, but when I read it, I recalled with fondness the hardy folk of our dear state. We disdain the whip and those who would crudely and cruelly wield it. It is no small irony that Lafayette wielded whips of his own upon his return to France, the aristocrat turned citizen turned reluctant authoritarian. But not all riders hold whips, do they? We find then this question: what kind of leaders shall we be? It falls heavily upon us, this demand, this charge, this choice. Rather than dwell upon the volition of it all, this deciding our nature, I call us to reflect on the precursor, namely this: we can choose who we are because of who we are. We are free citizens of this fine country. Whether by birth or transplant, we are sons and daughters of these green mountains. From these two, our national citizenship and state residence, we inherit the right to choice and the unction to use that right. What's more, we are human beings made in the image of Almighty God, imbued with authority to exercise dominion and responsible stewardship. As the Bible says in Genesis 1, verse 26, quote, "Then God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth," unquote. Our rights to choose our own paths and govern in wisdom come not from the whip, but a gracious rider, our Creator. The scriptures speak of Jesus Christ likewise, saying in Colossians 1, verses 15 through 17, quote, "He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. For by him all things were created, in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities. All things were created through him and for him. And he is before all things, and in him all things hold together," unquote. I invite you today to practice gratitude in recognition that we are people who can choose what to make of our own way. I commend you to practice humility in knowing that we shall each give account for how we use what we have been given. And finally, I recommend to you the gentle and independent Vermont way that would toss all violence of any whip, except, of course, what whipped cream you may add to your Ben & Jerry's. That is an appropriate Vermont choice. Thank you.
Members, we have one House bill for introduction today. House Bill 473 is an act relating to the reintroduction of catamounts to the state of Vermont, introduced by Representative Austin of Colchester. Please listen to the first reading of the bill.
H 473, an act relating to the reintroduction of catamounts to the state of Vermont.
Now the bill has been read the first time and is referred to the Committee on Environment. Members, we have two bills on the notice calendar requiring referral to a money committee pursuant to House Rule 35A. The first is House Bill 243, which is an act relating to the regulation of business organizations affecting the revenue of the state. The bill is referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. The second is House Bill 398, which is an act relating to the Vermont Economic Development Authority. Carrying an appropriation, the bill is referred to the Committee on Appropriations. Also, earlier today, the Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs voted out House Bill 321, which is an act relating to miscellaneous cannabis amendments affecting the revenue of the state. The bill is referred to the Committee on Ways and Means pursuant to House Rule 35A, pending its entry on the notice calendar. Are there any announcements? Member from Jericho.
Madam Speaker, earlier today, in celebration of the International Francophone Month, dignitaries from France, Quebec, and Canada joined an American delegation right here in the State House to raise the flag of La Francophonie Internationale. This circular flag is made of 5 interconnected segments and represents cooperation across the 5 continents where the members of La Francophonie are located. We are honored to host this event here in this People's House. Please join me in welcoming, and I apologize on the name pronunciation in advance, Marie-Josée Duquette, who is the Culture, Francophonie, and Academic Affairs Attaché of Quebec, Mustafa Soy-Kurt, Consul General of France, Chris Begley, Canadian Trade Commissioner focusing on innovation and investment, and Madame Le Chevalier Lise Veronneau, Honorary Consul to France and President and Chair of the Honafleur Sister City Committee. They are here seated in the gallery.
Will the guest of the member from Jericho please rise and be recognized? Are there any further announcements, member from Berry City?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to welcome and ask the chamber to help me welcome a member of the great city of Barrie who just delivered our devotional. Pastor Max Tardy is from the Bible Baptist Church in Berlin, but as I mentioned, he is a lifelong Central Vermont resident and a member of the community here in Barrie City. So I'd ask you to help me welcome him to the chamber.
Will the guest of the member from Berry City please rise and be recognized? And the other member from Berry City? No. Are there any further announcements? Member from Springfield.
Madam Speaker, I move that House Corrections and Institutions Committee be relieved of the bill H410, which is an act related to the calculation of recidivism, and have it committed to the Committee on House Judiciary.
The member from Springfield moves that the Committee on Corrections and Institutions be relieved of House Bill 410, which is an act relating to the calculation of recidivism and other related criminology measures, and that the same be committed to the Committee on Judiciary. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. And you have relieved the Committee on Corrections and Institutions of House Bill 480 and committed the same to the Committee on Judiciary. Are there any further announcements? Member from Jericho.
Thank you again, Madam Speaker. Recently, institutions and organizations from both sides of the border signed a memorandum of understanding to establish a structured and continuous dialogue between key stakeholders in Quebec and Vermont. This cooperative effort aims to strengthen the bilateral collaboration in the semiconductor industry to foster innovation, resilience, and mutual economic benefit. In its initial phase, the effort will focus on the Northeast Semiconductor Manufacturing Corridor, which spans the Quebec and Northeastern United States. Today, we have representatives from the following entities who have signed the Memorandum of Understanding to foster cooperation and share strategic priorities, as well as expand the corridor to other U.S. states and regions of the Quebec province. Technium Quebec, Electronics and Semiconductors Innovation Zone in Bromont, District Quantum Innovation Zone in Sherbrooke, Micro Innovation Collaborative Center, University of Sherbrooke, ISEQ, Center for Excellence for the Electronic System Industry of Quebec, and Quebec Council of Employers, and also the American Chamber of Commerce in Canada, University of Vermont Tech Hub, and the Vermont Agency of Commerce and Community Development. And they are also here in the gallery with us.
Will the guest and the member from Jericho please rise and be recognized? Are there any further announcements? Seeing none, orders of the day. Members, we will begin with House Bill 2, which is an act relating to increasing the minimum age for delinquency proceedings. Please listen to the third reading of the bill.
H2, an act relating to increasing the minimum age for delinquency proceedings.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed the bill. Up next is House Bill 21, which is an act relating to the service of writs of possession. Please listen to the third reading of the bill.
H21, an act relating to service of writs of possession.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed the bill. Next is House Bill 50, which is an act relating to identifying state real property suitable for conversion into affordable housing. Please listen to the third reading of the bill.
H50, an act relating to identifying state real property suitable for conversion into affordable housing.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed the bill. Up next is House Bill 105, which is an act relating to expanding the Youth Substance Awareness Safety Program. Please listen to the third reading of the bill.
H105, an act relating to expanding the Youth Substance Awareness Safety Program.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed the bill. Now we'll turn to House Bill 458, which is an act relating to the Agency of Digital Services. The bill was introduced by the Committee on Energy and Digital Infrastructure. The member from St. Johnsbury, Representative Campbell, will speak for the committee. Please listen to the second reading of the bill.
H458, an act relating to the Agency of Digital Services.
Member from St. Johnsbury.
Madam Speaker, I am reporting on Bill, H458, a committee bill to revise reporting requirements of the Agency of Digital Services, or ADS. This bill is available on the legislative website as introduced. Government IT, the phrase conjures thoughts of massive projects with big price tags, replacing ancient mainframe programs and computer languages few people know anymore, or equally massive projects implementing new services like health insurance that stumble badly when they launch. Such thoughts are not wrong, at least not entirely, but there are certainly more and more examples of successful state IT projects. One notable success recently, the DMV effort to replace a cluster of systems, including ancient mainframe programs that nobody knows how to program anymore, with an integrated new system and public-facing, user-friendly website. But what is true is that many of these projects are massive, require huge time commitments, and have enormous price tags. Currently, throughout the executive branch, we have projects underway with an estimated total cost over the life of the projects of $762 million. That includes both state and federal dollars and both implementation and operational costs. But it's a big number. Even though some of these projects are in response to legislative action and all of the state dollars are appropriated by the legislature has limited visibility into how well they are going and how cost effective they are. It was partly in response to this lack of focused oversight, Madam Speaker, that you reconstituted the former Energy and Technology Committee as the current Energy and Digital Infrastructure Committee. Our digital infrastructure policy area includes telecom, broadband, cybersecurity, as well as state IT. The committee was pleased to start the year with examining state IT. A little history. The Agency of Digital Services is the successor to the former Department of Information and Innovation, DII. ADS was established by executive order in 2017 and created in statute in 2019. The Secretary of Digital Services is a cabinet-level official and also the state's Chief Information Officer. ADS coordinates IT services across the executive branch with more than 90% of its roughly $140 million annual budget paid through payments from the various agencies and departments, the partner agencies, rather than through direct allocation. ADS manages, excuse me, ADS manages custom IT projects through its Enterprise Project Management Office. We call it EPMO. In view of the scale of costs and the central role IT has in government efficiency and especially public access to its services, the Office of the State Auditor conducted a performance audit on ADS in 2023. They selected 6 projects to assess ADS's project management prowess, prowess too, I guess, particularly whether projects stayed on budget and on schedule, and if not, why not? Their report made some specific recommendations that informed the development of the bill. The Joint Fiscal Office also retains a part-time consultant specifically to track a handful of high-cost IT projects. Her assistance was invaluable to crafting the final bill. With that background, I walk through H458. Section 1 states that the intent of the bill is to provide the General Assembly, quote, to provide the General Assembly and the public with more transparency about the scope, budget, and overall status of certain technology projects managed by ADS. The purpose of the bill is essentially to codify project details to be included in ADS's annual reporting and on its website. Section 2 amends statute governing ADS, which is 3 VSA section 3303. Subsection A, annual reports and budget, amends language to stipulate that the House and Senate committees of jurisdiction are to receive the currently required annual report rather than just the General Assembly. Subdivision 4 of subsection A changes the criterion for including projects in the annual report from a cost threshold of $500,000 to whether the project is managed by ADS's Enterprise Project Management Office, EPMO. EPMO manages all custom IT projects in the executive branch, as previously stated, and it manages all these projects whether they are above $500,000 or not. New language in this subdivision, A through D, details data points to be reported on for each project. That is, scope, budget, timeline, and status, including changes over time, and indicators of on budget and on time, and project closure details. In subdivision 6, under subsection A, a requirement is added to include in the annual report any uses of the CIO's authority to waive independent expert reviews of projects, which is required under subsection D on the next page of the bill. Subsection B, records, changes the criterion for the records to be kept to be the same as for annual reports, that is, from a $500,000 threshold to whether the project is managed by EPMO. Subdivision 1 under subsection B adds partner agency staffing costs to the records required if those costs are available. Subsection D, independent expert review, makes technical corrections. Subsection E, current projects inventory, is new language. A little background will help here. As the committee considered this inventory, we started with the dashboard ADS had previously developed on its own initiative and posted on its website. Its website is digitalservices.vermont.gov, and the dashboard is available under EPMO and reporting dashboards. The dashboard is intended to display at a glance the status of all projects currently underway through EPMO. But it is built on standard industry project management data points internally useful to ADS, not necessarily to legislators or to the public. And as such, it doesn't paint the full picture of the overall trajectory of the projects. For example, as the state auditor pointed out, the dashboard shows the current estimated completion date and cost, but it does not show the original estimated date and cost. In the course of working with ADS on the bill, ADS tweaked the dashboard and added functionality such as context-specific pop-ups when hovering over some of the displayed data. The updated version with updates still in progress is on the reporting dashboard's webpage now. The new language in subsection E codifies the minimum update cycle and the data points to be included on the publicly available inventory or dashboard. And it adds the two new metrics suggested by the state auditor, which are specified under subdivisions 4 and 5. That is the original completion date and the original cost as of the start of the implementation phase of the project. Section 3 is the effective date, July 1st, 2025. Madam Speaker, government IT is inevitably complex. Most projects must meet myriad federal and state criteria, and at the same time be rendered into much less complex, intuitively understandable web presence. Because that is how services are delivered now. Laws and rules tend to be rigid, but the implementation of those laws and rules in the digital sphere must be flexible and iterative to stay current with evolving web standards and thus be truly accessible to the public. It is a challenge. This bill is a step to integrating the legislature and the public more closely with this critical phase of the work of government. The committee wishes to thank the Secretary and staff of ADS for their thoughtful and constructive engagement as we worked on the bill. The committee took testimony from the Agency of Digital Services, the Secretary and Chief Information Officer, the Chief Financial Officer, the Agency Chief of Staff, the Director of the Enterprise Project Management Office, also from the Deputy State Auditor from the Office of the State Auditor, Joint Fiscal Office's IT Consultant, and Legislative Counsel from the Office of Legislative Counsel. H458 includes no appropriation and raises no fees. The committee vote in favor of the bill was unanimous, 9-0-0, and we ask the body's support.
The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and third reading is ordered. Next, we'll turn to House Bill 1, which is an act relating to accepting and referring complaints by the State Ethics Commission. The bill was referred to the Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs, which recommends that the bill be amended as printed in today's calendar. The member from Milton, Representative Morgan, will speak for the committee. Please listen to the second reading of the bill.
H1, an act relating to accepting and referring complaints by the State Ethics Commission.
Member from Milton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Bill 1 is a follow-up to the ethics bill that the General Assembly passed last year near the end of the biennium. That bill, H 875, expanded the powers and duties of the Vermont State Ethics Commission. For members who served last session, you'll probably recall that a lot of the focus was on that bill's provisions relating to municipal ethics. However, what was also included in that bill were provisions relating to the authority of the State Ethics Commission when it refers complaints to either of the legislative chamber's ethics panels and to the judicial branch's two separate boards that have disciplinary control over judicial officers and attorneys. It wasn't until after adjournment of the 2024 biennium, after the bill was enacted into law, that constitutional issues were discovered in some of those provisions. Specifically, the language of the 2024 Act would require the House Ethics Panel, the Senate Ethics Panel, the Judicial Conduct Board, which regulates judicial officers, and the Professional Responsibility Board, which regulates attorneys, to consult in writing with the Ethics Commission on any complaint the Commission referred to them regarding the application of the State Code of Ethics to the complaint prior to any of those entities being able to make a determination on the complaint, meaning either closing the complaint without further investigation or issuing findings following an investigation. And that is the issue, because by Vermont Constitution, each legislative chamber has the exclusive authority to judge its members' qualifications. And similarly, the Vermont Supreme Court has disciplinary authority concerning all judicial officers and attorneys at law in the state. And those legislative panels and judicial boards were created to help carry out those constitutional functions. And so the language of the statute attempted to control constitutional powers of the legislative and judicial branches, but statute cannot control the Constitution. In addition to those constitutional concerns, we also heard from the judicial branch that it would violate their board's strict confidentiality rules to consult with the Ethics Commission in the manner the 2024 Act would require. And we heard from the House Ethics Panel staff that statute cannot control a chamber's legislative procedure, which also is what the 2024 Act attempted to do. So, H1 addresses these issues by requiring the Ethics Commission to provide its advice on the application of the State Code of Ethics when it refers a complaint to one of these legislative or judicial branch entities, so that these entities have this information up front. This alleviates this specific concern regarding statute attempting to control constitutional authority, and also provides the legislative and judicial branch entities with the Commission's advice on the State Code of Ethics, so that they can consider that information when they review these complaints. The 2024 Act's consultation requirement is not scheduled to take effect until September 1st of this year, so we're correcting this issue before its effective date. That is the background. I'll now walk you through the committee report, which is printed in today's calendar and is favorable with amendment. You will find that on page 313 in today's calendar. Our amendment is a strike all in order to update the format of the language presented and also to include the judicial branch boards, since they have similar roles as the House and Senate ethics panels in administering constitutional authority. Section 1 amends the consultation requirement 3 VSA, section 1223, subsection C. Subdivision 1A is the language applicable to the legislative and judicial branches when the commission receives a complaint about an individual regulated by them. These are the subdivision B for complaints. It would require the commission to specify the application of the State Code of Ethics to the facts presented in the complaint when it refers the complaint, and to include a recommended action. Subdivision 1B is for all of the complaints the commission refers to other applicable entities, except for those subdivision B4 complaints for the legislative and judicial branches. And also except for subdivision B5 complaints, those are municipal ethics complaints. And that is the carryover from last year's Ethics Act. For all of these other complaints, the receiving entity would still be required to consult with the commission in writing before the entity makes a determination on the complaint, as required by last year's Ethics Act. And new subdivision C2 confirms that any advice the commission provides during any consultation is confidential and non-binding on the receiving entity. Section 2 is the effective date section. This bill would take effect on September 1st of this year and supersede the conflicting provisions of last year's Ethics Act. We heard from the following witnesses in testimony: the chair of the Professional Responsibility Board, Legislative Council, Office of Legislative Counsel, the chair of the Judicial Conduct Board, court administrator for the Vermont Judiciary, the consultant on the Ethics Commission, the executive director for Campaign Vermont, sponsor of the bill, former executive director of Vermont State Ethics Commission, deputy chief counsel, Office of Legislative Counsel, member, League of Women Voters, a concerned citizen, executive director, Vermont State Ethics Commission, legislative appointee from the Vermont State Ethics Commission, and clerk of the House, Vermont House of Representatives. Madam Speaker, the vote in our committee was 11-0-0, and we ask for your support of this bill.
The question is, shall the bill be amended as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have amended the bill. Now the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for that question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and third reading is ordered. Next is House Bill 206, which is an act relating to the Uniform Commercial Code. The bill was referred to the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development, which recommends that the bill be amended as printed in today's calendar. The member from Starksboro, Representative Olson, will speak for the committee. Please listen to the second reading of the bill.
H206, an act relating to the Uniform Commercial Code.
Now, member from Starksboro.
Madam Speaker, I offer to you and through you to the body the report of the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development on H206, an act related to the Uniform Commercial Code. H206, as introduced, can be found on the website of the House of Representatives under the bill search function, and the committee's proposed amendment to the bill can be found on pages 315 and 316 on today's House calendar. Before explaining the specific changes to Vermont's Uniform Commercial Code proposed in H206, members should know what the Uniform Commercial Code is and the process by which amendments to the Uniform Commercial Code are proposed and approved. The subject matter of H206 is the Uniform Commercial Code, known as the UCC. The UCC is the law governing commercial transactions in Vermont. It is a uniform law that has also been enacted in all of the states and most U.S. territories. Because it is a uniform law nationwide, it is used with confidence by those engaged in commercial transactions throughout the land, knowing that the contracts and other transactions made in one state will be honored in the same way in all other states. The UCC, therefore, is one of the key foundational elements of our commercial system, both for businesses and for consumers dealing with those businesses. As such, the UCC is an essential component of economic development in Vermont. It is important that when changes are recommended to the UCC, that Vermont and the other states enact those changes in a reasonably expeditious manner so that the value of uniform commercial laws can continue to inure to the benefit of Vermont. The particular changes to the UCC proposed by this bill have already been enacted in 25 states and are under consideration in this year in 13 other states, including Vermont. As for who proposes changes to the UCC, the Uniform Law Commissioners is a national organization composed of experts in the field of commercial law. In the case of the Uniform Commercial Code, the Uniform Law Commissioners are joined by another national organization, the American Law Institute. These national organizations meet from time to time. When new developments in commercial law occur, or new business innovations or technology occur, the organizations meet to consider whether amendments to the UCC should be made. The Uniform Law Commissioners and the American Law Institutes meet with groups around the country, and if necessary, international groups, to hear comments from all interested parties. Typically, the National Association of Attorney Generals will participate in the process in order that consumer protection interests, if any, are heard. After a lengthy set of meetings, a consensus on necessary changes is established, and those recommendations are sent to the individual states for enactment in state legislatures. In the case of changes to the UCC proposed in H206, consideration of the changes took place over a 2-year period by around 350 experts and interested parties. This process has been used for almost a century to maintain the UCC as our nation's uniform law of commercial transactions. The principal changes to the UCC embodied in H206 have been necessitated by the growth of the electronic world of commerce and the emergence of digital assets such as virtual currency. The principal locus for these changes are proposed to be made in a new Article 12 to the UCC called Controllable Electronic Records. In general, Article 12 seeks to carry forward to these transactions in new technologies and currencies the contractual and other policy decisions and choices that have been in existence for many, many years in connection with traditional commercial transactions. Proposed Article 12 includes provisions that govern the transfer of property rights in certain intangible digital assets referred to as controllable electronic records, created by the use of these new technologies. These assets include, for example, certain types of virtual currency, distributed ledger currencies such as blockchain, and non-fungible tokens, or NFTs. Controllable electronic records are defined to include only those electronic records which can be subject to control. Control is best understood in a general sense as the term possession is in the case of goods. So you control a controllable electronic record. Control is the necessary condition for protection as a good faith purchaser for value, a qualifying purchaser of a controllable electronic record. Article 12 also confers an attribute of negotiability to controllable electronic records because a qualifying purchaser takes its interest in these records free of conflicting property claims to the record. Because Article 12 establishes uniform rules about negotiability, it provides confidence in the integrity of commercial transaction using virtual currency, for example, to a similar extent to the manner in which other provisions of the UCC provide confidence in uniform transactions for traditional commercial transactions and currency. Other provisions in Article 12 create a mechanism for evidencing certain rights to payment and the assignment of such payment rights. Article 12 also includes a choice of law provisions for transactions and controllable electronic records in different jurisdictions. Other changes to the UCC embodied in H206 are conforming provisions to the other articles of the UCC necessitated by the adoption of Article 12. For example, Article 9 addresses what are known as secured transactions. These transactions involve the sale of assets for which a security interest is taken for the protection of the interests of the seller. Think of secured transactions as a form of mortgage for assets other than land. The provisions of Article 9 in H206 are proposed to be updated to reflect transactions that take place using controllable electronic records as consideration, instead of traditional money or other assets of value. In those types of transactions, sellers will be able to take a security interest in controllable electronic records. Similar amendments conforming to new Article 11 are being proposed to the definition of a writing, which is now transformed to the concept of a record to include electronic records. The definition of money, which now adds to virtual currency and other assets other than traditional currency. The definition of conspicuousness, a term which is intended to call attention to important provisions of a document memorializing the transaction. The term now goes beyond concepts such as bold or underlining to include other methods to call attention to these provisions, to a party's attention. A few non-Article 12 related amendments are being proposed in H206 to clarify certain existing UCC provisions. For example, an amendment is being proposed to Article 2, sales, to address litigation disputes involving what are called hybrid transactions. Hybrid transactions are where the transactions may involve the sale of goods, but also involve services, leases, or licenses. In these types of hybrid transactions, the UCC creates a rule to guide the courts in their adjudication of disputes, such as if one portion of the transaction predominates, for example, the sale of goods, then Article 2 provisions relating to sales will, as a general matter, be applied to the dispute. Madam Speaker, your Committee on Commerce and Economic Development offers an amendment to H206 that would add Sec 11A. Sec 11A proposes that the comments of the Uniform Law Commissioners that accompany the amendments to the UCC be printed in the official version of the Vermont statutes annotated, the Green Books. Adding these comments has been customary for the UCC and its amendments for many years. Madam Speaker, your Committee on Commerce and Economic Development heard testimony from Carl Lissman, a distinguished lawyer who has been an active member of the Uniform Commissioners for decades. Mr. Lissman has been guiding the legislature in connection with changes to the UCC for many years. The committee also heard testimony from James Knapp, a learned attorney who is the chair of the property law section of the Vermont Bar Association. Both witnesses supported passage of the bill. The committee also had the very able assistance of Reek Siegel, legislative counsel. Madam Speaker, your Committee on Commerce and Economic Development voted 11-0-0 to approve the amendment to H206 previously described. The committee also voted 11-0-0 to approve the bill as amended, and we ask for the body's concurrence and approval.
The question is, shall the bill be amended as recommended by the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have amended the bill. Now the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for that question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and third reading is ordered. Next, we'll turn to House Bill 238, which is an act relating to the phase-out of consumer protection products containing added perfluoroalkyl and polyperfluoroalkyl substances. The bill was referred to the Committee on Environment, which recommends that the bill be amended as printed in today's calendar. The member from East Montpelier, Representative Chapin, will speak for the committee. Please listen to the second reading of the bill.
H238, an act relating to the phase-out of consumer products containing added perfluoroalkyl and polyfluoroalkyl substances.
Member from East Montpelier.
Madam Speaker, H238 takes the next logical steps in protecting Vermonters from the harmful class of chemicals known as PFAS, or, as you well articulated, perfluoroalkyl and polyfluoroalkyl substances. I will be using the acronym PFAS from here on out. This bill builds on the work we have done in previous years to address the harmful nature of PFAS compounds, prohibiting certain consumer products from being sold in Vermont if they contain PFAS intentionally added during production or manufacturing. It also takes steps to help us prepare for future prohibitions and regulation of PFAS chemicals in consumer products. Let's take a step back for a moment. While I imagine the word PFAS is familiar, you may be wondering what exactly PFAS are. PFAS are a class of synthetic chemicals characterized by having at least one fully fluorinated carbon atom. Known as forever chemicals because of their long lifespan, they have been used in industry and consumer products since the 1950s due to their unique physical and chemical properties that resist grease, oil, water, and heat. PFAS chemicals are now used in countless products, from nonstick pots and pans to outdoor clothing, textiles, and furniture, and from food packaging and cosmetics to electronics. Because of their chemical structure, they do not readily break down in the environment or in our bodies. They can bioaccumulate in living organisms, and they will persist for hundreds or thousands of years. Because of their widespread use and their persistence in the environment, PFAS are found in our water, soil, our air, in our food products, and within our bodies and living organisms all over the world. PFAS are known to have significant detrimental health effects. They have been shown to increase risk of multiple types of cancer, impair immune system functioning, reduce vaccine effectiveness, and negatively impact fertility, hormone health, and early childhood growth and development. We heard clear and consistent testimony that there is scientific consensus demonstrating these impacts and risks. Because of these clear risks, communities, governments, and industries are working to shift our dependence away from PFAS chemicals, find alternatives, stop producing products with them where we can, and learn how to best remove, reduce, or contain them in our environment. This bill is one step in that lengthy process. PFAS pollution has been particularly at the forefront here in Vermont since the 2016 discovery of high levels of PFOA, one type of PFAS chemical, in private drinking wells in Bennington County. We have since then taken a variety of legislative actions to address PFAS in our environment. Last biennium, our House Committee on Human Services took the lead on the topic of addressing PFAS in consumer products, resulting in Act 131, which passed into law in 2024. Act 131 banned the sale or distribution of certain specified consumer products containing these PFAS substances beginning in 2026, which hasn't happened yet, including the products artificial turf, cookware, textiles, and juvenile products. Act 131 also required the Vermont Agency of Natural Resources to report to the General Assembly with a proposed program for a comprehensive regulation of PFAS based at the Agency of Natural Resources for all consumer products in the state. The Act 131 report from the Agency of Natural Resources that we received just 2 months ago in January did propose a PFAS regulatory program to be located at the agency with the agency's expert staff. However, to do a full regulatory program, they advised such a program would at this time need to be based on a more narrow set of PFAS compounds than the entire class of PFAS. Only 2 other states, Maine and Minnesota, have implemented a full regulatory program to regulate PFAS in consumer products. We heard about a variety of challenges related to being one of the first states in the country to develop such a regulatory program. The Act 131 report also proposed adding 3 products to the list of products prohibited for sale if they have PFAS in them: cleaning products, dental floss, and fluorine-treated containers. As proposed by your House Environment Committee, H238 continues the current structure for regulating PFAS in consumer products by maintaining the prohibitions under the Consumer Protection Authority of our Attorney General, instead of moving to a regulatory program at the Agency of Natural Resources. The bill also adds the 3 new products originally proposed by ANR in Act 131. H238 makes these 3 additions to the list of prohibited products, adjusts the definition of intentionally added PFAS, and extends the prohibition dates for a couple of products. The bill is complicated by the fact that we also recommend structural changes to the subchapter to consolidate prohibitions under fewer sections and to show the changes from Act 131 so that all of the provisions related to PFAS and consumer products are located in one bill. Although S238 continues with the current structure for regulating PFAS and consumer products, the bill also requires ANR, the Agency of Natural Resources, to report back to the General Assembly regarding how other states are implementing regulatory programs for PFAS and consumer products based on the broad traditional definition of PFAS. I will now walk you through the strike all amendment, which starts on page 316 of today's calendar. Section 1 amends the subchapter enacted last year in Act 131 for the regulation of PFAS and consumer products. It adds 3 new definitions for the 3 items added to the prohibition: cleaning products, dental floss, and fluorine containers. I will particularly note that cleaning product means a compound intended for routine cleaning, including general purpose cleaners, bathroom cleaners, glass cleaners, carpet cleaners, floor care products, and hand soaps. Cleaning product does not mean an antimicrobial pesticide. Fluorine-treated containers are fluorinated by adding PFAS to the container or lining, typically so that it is particularly waterproof or leak-proof, and may include bottles and other containers with a slippery inner coating to hold products such as cleaning products, petroleum products, or pesticides. The bill also amends the definition of intentionally added. This is important because we are only prohibiting consumer products with PFAS if the PFAS is intentionally added. After significant testimony from individuals across multiple industries, we amended the definition to clarify that it means the addition of a chemical in a product that serves an intended function in the manufacturing of a product or in the final product and results in PFAS in the final product. The addition of PFAS must be known or reasonably ascertainable by the manufacturer, and PFAS shall not be considered intentionally added if the chemical is present in the product due to the use of water containing PFAS and the manufacturer took no action that resulted in the PFAS being present in the water. The bill defines known or reasonably ascertainable to mean all information in a person's possession or control, plus all information that a reasonable person similarly situated might be expected to possess, control, or know. Section 1 then amends 9 VSA section 2494F to consolidate the prohibitions added last year under Act 131, which originally were done in multiple sections. This reorganization of last year's work was done this year in order to create space in the subchapter and to organize most of the prohibitions under one section. This subchapter bans the manufacture, sale, offer for sale, distribution for sale, or distribution for use in the state of certain consumer products to which PFAS have been intentionally added in any amount. And this list includes the bans enacted last year for aftermarket stain and water-resistant treatments, artificial turf, cookware, incontinency protection products, juvenile products, rugs and carpets, and ski wax. And then it also includes 2 of the 3 products we are newly prohibiting by this bill: cleaning products and dental floss. Subsection B addresses textiles separately because textiles are allowed under Act 131 to have a small amount of PFAS, and thus the term regulated PFAS is used in this section. This section prohibits the manufacture, sale, or distribution of textiles or textile articles to which regulated PFAS have been intentionally added in any amount. Currently, textiles have been intentionally added, not in any amount. Currently, textiles may have up to 100 parts per million of PFAS. You will see in Section 2 of the bill that the amount is reduced to 50 parts per million on July 1st, 2027, and this was all enacted last year under Act 131. Subsection C prohibits PFAS and consumer products subsection C means that prohibited PFAS and consumer products does not apply to the sale or distribution of any of the products that are used products. So we could get into a long laundry list of some strange scenarios. But we'll just say that this is about the initial sale and distribution of products, not things that have already been used and are for resale or reuse. You will see several sections of statute next struck in section 1. These are the prohibitions on consumer products that were consolidated under 2494F. Section 1 also includes a new section, 9 VSA, section 2494G, addressing fluorine-treated containers, the third product newly prohibited under this bill. This bill bans fluorine-treated containers related to the consumer products on the prohibited list in the near future. This will include containers for ski wax or cleaning products, for example. All fluorine-treated containers of all kinds would be prohibited starting in 2030, and this would include containers for all kinds of consumer products such as gasoline and pesticides for household use. Thus, subsection A, parentheses A, bans the sale or distribution of a consumer product listed under 9 VSA section 2494F, subsection A, 1 through 9, if the product does not contain intentionally added PFAS but is offered for sale or distribution in a fluorine-treated container. The second subsection B, ensures the prohibition shall not apply to previously used products like we did for earlier prohibited products. The third subsection C is where there is a prohibition starting January 1st, 2030 for all fluorine-treated containers for consumer products. Under the fourth subsection D, it enables the Attorney General to, through rulemaking, allow the sale or distribution of a consumer product prohibited under subsections A or C of this section if they determine that the use of PFAS in the product or container is a currently unavoidable use. And currently unavoidable use means that the use of PFAS is essential for health, safety, or the functioning of society, and for which an alternative is not reasonably available. Next, H293 renumbers the Attorney General's existing authority to request a certificate of compliance and the section providing the penalties for violations of the subchapter. I will note here that the Attorney General's penalty authority provides that any violation here is a consumer protection violation under 9 VSA section 2453. Under 9 VSA section 2461, a consumer protection violation is subject to a civil penalty of up to $10,000 per violation, and our consumer protection statutes also provide a right of action for up to treble damages. Section 2, yay, we got through section 1. Section 2 amends the allowed PFAS level in textiles from 100 parts per million down to 50 parts per million beginning July 1st, 2027, again as set forth last year in Act 131. Section 3 is based on the work done last year. It addresses outdoor apparel for severe wet conditions, a particular subset of apparel, adding it to the definition of apparel for purposes of the ban. This goes into effect July 1, 2028. Section 4 requires the Agency of Natural Resources to report to the General Assembly on the status of other states with PFAS regulatory programs that use the broad definition of PFAS. The report will include a summary of any obstacles faced by these states and a recommendation of whether Vermont should establish a regulatory program for PFAS in consumer products based on the broad definition. Section 5 requires the Agency of Natural Resources to report to the General Assembly in 2033, note the date, we've got a long haul here, on how to address PFAS in complex durable goods. Complex durable goods are a consumer product that is a manufactured good composed of 100 or more manufactured components with an intended useful life of 5 or more years, where the product is typically not consumed, destroyed, or discarded after a single use. Think computers or cars. This includes replacement parts for complex durable goods not subject to a phase-out under this chapter. Section 5 also requires the Secretary of Agriculture to report to the General Assembly in that same year, 2033, on how to address PFAS in food. Section 6 repeals the Act 131 prospective definition of outdoor apparel and the prospective definition of regulated PFAS because they are included now in H238. Section 7 amends the effective dates from Act 131, striking the effective dates for those provisions incorporated into H238. And Section 8 includes effective dates that are directly relevant for some of the work under H238. Sections 4 and 5, reports to the General Assembly, shall take effect on July 1, 2025, although those reports aren't due until later. Section 1, PFAS in consumer products shall take effect on January 1, 2026, as originally planned in Act 131, except that the prohibitions on cleaning products, dental floss, and fluorine-treated containers shall take effect on July 1, 2027. In response to testimony we received from several industry representatives, we made changes to the effective dates for 2 types of consumer products prohibited under Act 131 last year: cookware and outdoor apparel. You will next see that the prohibition on cookware shall take effect July 1, 2028. Section 1 shall supersede those provisions of 2024 acts and resolves Act 131, Section 3, that conflict with the provisions of this act. The definition of regulated PFAS shall take effect July 1, 2027, and now you'll see the definition of outdoor apparel shall take effect on July 1, 2028. And then the repeal of Act 131 provisions and the amended Act 131 effective dates shall take effect on January 1, 2026. Your Committee on Environment unanimously passed H238 and believes that it is important that we take these next steps to reduce PFAS in consumer products and the human and environmental impacts of these forever chemicals. We appreciate the work done last biennium by your Committee on Human Services and the opportunity for our committee to learn about PFAS and contribute to the next steps of this work, given this area of overlapping jurisdiction. We heard testimony from the Executive Director of the Vermont Outdoor Business Alliance, the founder and owner of Got Weeds, the manager of the state and federal government affairs at the Sustainable PFAS Action Network, the Executive Director of the Vermont Public Interest Research Group, the Executive Director of Cookware Sustainability Alliance, the Director of Waste and Management and Prevention Division at the Department of Environmental Conservation, at the Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation, the Attorney General at the Attorney General's Office, the President and CEO of AGC America, the Vice President of Associated Industries of Vermont, the Policy and Water Program Director of the Vermont Natural Resources Council, the Principal Lobbyist at Junior Products Manufacturers Association, the Earth Community Advocate and Researcher at the Vermont Pesticide and Poison Action Network, the Commissioner of the Vermont Department of Health, the Vice President of Engineering and Compliance at Casella Waste Management, Deputy Chief Counsel, the Office of Legislative Counsel, a member from the House Committee on Healthcare, the Director of State and Local Government Affairs at American Apparel and Footwear Association, Senior Scientist of Environmental Health for the Natural Resources Defense Council, the Director of PFAS Advocacy and Environmental Health at the Natural Resources Defense Council, Environmental Advocate at the Vermont Public Interest Research Group, the Director of State and Public Affairs for Heating, Air Conditioning, and Refrigeration Distributors International, the Vice Chair of Engineering Standards Committee, the Vice Chair of Engineering Standards Committee at the Cookware and Bakeware Alliance, and the Director of Product Sustainability and Authenticity at WILF Sustainability. Your Committee on Environment voted the amendment out on a vote of 11-0-0, and the committee respectfully requests your support.
The question is, shall the bill be amended as recommended by the Committee on Environment? Are you ready for the question? Member from Waterbury.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The House Committee on Human Services was delighted to share the wealth with the House Environment Committee on this topic, and we were very pleased that they took up and expanded on the work of the last few years of the House Human Services Committee. And we appreciated the review of the bill by Ledge Counsel and by the bill's reporter. And on a straw poll of 911, we support the bill.
The question is, shall the bill be amended as recommended by the Committee on Environment? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have amended the bill. Now the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for that question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and third reading is ordered. Members, the final item on our action calendar today is JRS 16, which is a joint resolution providing for a joint assembly to vote on the retention of 7 Superior Court judges and 1 magistrate. The resolution has been read and appears in yesterday's journal. The question is, shall the resolution be adopted in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and the resolution is adopted in concurrence. Members, that completes the orders of the day. Are there any announcements? Seeing none, member from Poultney, can you please offer us a motion to adjourn until Friday, March 14th at 9:30 a.m.?
Madam Speaker, I make a motion this body stand in adjournment until Friday, March 14th, 2025 at 9:30 a.m.
Will the House please come to order? The member from Poultney moves that we adjourn until Friday, March 14th at 9:30 a.m. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and this body stands in adjournment until tomorrow at 9:30 a.m.